Hi guys, thank you so much for tuning in. If you are watching this video, that means you are looking for a postdoc position. So in order to discuss all the important points that you need for getting the postdoc position, I have invited Dr. Dalal for this podcast. She has done her PhD from IIT Delhi and right now she is doing her postdoc from the US. She knows all the important points necessary for you to get a very good postdoc position. So let's begin with this video. Thank you, Anu. Welcome to the podcast and thanks for giving us your time.
Thank you, Deepak. It's nice connecting with you.
Thanks. Yeah, so I would like to start with the most persistent question that people ask me, like whenever I tell them that I'm a postdoc. So, and the question is, what's a postdoc?
Okay, like for me, postdoc in one line is like it's a professional, like it's a professionally when you carry out research after your PhD, it's postdoc. Like since the title suggests like it's postdoctorate, so you carry out research after obtaining your PhD degree, and basically it's done to gain more insight about research, to have proper training of being an independent researcher, so that you can gain more of skills, so as in future, suppose if you want to pursue career in academia or say it in industry and specifically in R&D sector, so this doing postdoc will certainly help you, and it will train you to be an independent researcher, because in PhD usually there is sort of supervisor. Of course in postdoc you will also have, but you are expected to do some independent work. So that's postdoc.
Postdoc is more about making you independent.
It's like the beginning of your research career.
Yeah. Okay. One thing which is very important for us when we are at the final stage of our PhD, we are not able to figure out like what's the right time for us to apply for a postdoc. So what in your experience is the right time to apply for a postdoc? Because that's a very confusing time. Like when you are about to submit, people are always looking for people like those who can join immediately. So what do you think is the right window when you should apply for a postdoc?
I'll say this is the most important question, like to me and to others. Like I have telling these questions, like answering these questions to most of my juniors also. So for me, according to me, it's like, I don't know, do you understand synopsis? Like in our IIT system, we have synopsis where you have to briefly present your PhD work, and then there is a committee who will, pass your synopsis and say, yes, you can write your thesis. Like you'll get a permission to write your thesis, and of course, then the later stage will be defending it. So that's like when you're about to present your synopsis, like your supervisor and you have decided like prominent work related to PhD has been done and some publications were there as an outcome. So that's the time when you should start looking for labs, like at least have a broad idea like where to go. People selected by country, some select by professors, big universities. The criteria can be anything, but like you should have some broad understanding of where to go. And then like people, like when I was a student and when I was passing all through my synopsis, there were a lot of rumors around like you have to write 200 300 mails a day. It's all rubbish. I believe that nobody can write serious mail like 100 200 in a day. It seems very vague to me. Because when I was writing mail, a concrete serious mail, I was about to do it like 15-20 mails maximum and when I have actually spent whole of the day, like 20 mails in whole day. Suppose it's Sunday, so 20-25 mails, serious mails in a day. So don't just randomly, it's not a WhatsApp kind of thing. You can keep forwarding a lot of stuff because you have to align some lines and everything accordingly. So like serious mails you should start. And then of course you can briefly tell about your PhD in 2 to 3 lines. You can frame your mail very, very systematic way. It should not be too long. It should not be too short that it's just a casual. To a professor, it seems to be very casual mail, and of course he'll throw it into the dustbin. So it doesn't seems to be prominent. One other thing I'll suggest is like start figuring out professors. Like I found Twitter very useful for it, believe me. Like a lot of good professors, highly active labs are active on Twitter, and they frequently post the vacancies.
Yes.
And I think like rather than randomly just sending mails, sometimes these things work, because it's like you're banging the door which is meant to be open, because they have the vacancy, so there are most
Yeah.
probable chances to fetch in like some position there. Sometimes when you just keep on mailing, sometimes you feel that you're not getting reply. People get bogged down by it, like
Yeah.
even though they are having good CV, they are not getting calls, they are not getting you know they are not getting positive response. Sometimes professors don't reply. So for that, I'll say that it's not about you that you are not a suitable candidate. Sometimes it's just the grants are not there, funding is not there, and sometimes it's like the lab is already fully packed, so it's not your fault. So it's better to see labs, those who have vacancies. Like, so Twitter can be one thing, LinkedIn can be one thing. I prefer Twitter more because I found jobs there more.
Yeah.
So this can be one thing, and this you can keep on doing it. Like the moment you are done with your synopsis or you're about to do synopsis, fairly just randomly start applying. I'm not saying that you'll immediately get it. It's not like that.
Yeah.
It won't happen. It's just like sometimes, and especially like when you apply, you commit a lot of mistakes. So suppose, say, if you write a mail, you do
A lot of
mistakes. Like, yeah, sometimes you forgot to attach some files, sometimes the framing is not good, sometimes
yeah.
I found like we are habitual of using same cover letters, motivation letters. So you forgot to change the name of the professors, so you'll do it. Everybody
Yeah.
that I
This this reminds me of something which I did like when I was applying for my PhD.
These
Yeah.
are very silly things, but you will do it. So why I'm saying that, the more you start early, these errors will, filter out. So
Yeah.
when it's time to apply actually seriously and you are passionately waiting for it, you are somewhat refined and it will
Yeah.
work for you. So keep doing it, start early, and then writing mails, and sometimes you won't get reply, sometimes you'll get it. And it's better if, suppose if you get some interview call, and even if you haven't submitted your thesis, it's too early, but still it will give you an experience of like how the interviews are conducted, what professors will ask, what they look into it. So it will be kind of a mock. Of course you won't be able to join. Suppose if the time frame is like join within 3-4 months, you won't be able to do it, because within 3 months you have to write your thesis, then you have to
Yeah.
wait for defense, and then provisional degree. It will take long, but take it as a mock
Yeah.
stuff, and it will certainly land you somewhere a better place. So
Exactly.
and then if you're lucky, you can have couple of 2 3 4 options in your hand, so you can choose. Like on the final stage, you can choose like at what lab, what country you can have a better life. So that's like
Yeah.
start early. Like whenever you and your guide are satisfied that this is the work for your PhD, just start early. That's the one thing I'll do usually say to people.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned very good points. Before delving deeper into all those points, I would like to just mention, because you talked about the synopsis thing. Yeah, because I did my PhD from the UK and Australia, so it was like a joint program. So there, from in Europe and Australia, the system is like you need to decide a date when you're going to submit, and which is usually like 2 or 3 months prior to the submission date. So I would say that that's also a point where you can start thinking about it, because after the submission date also, you will have to wait, depending on the availability of the like examiners. You will have to wait for certain time, like let's say 2 months minimum, so that they can go through your thesis and examine you for your through your viva. So I think yes, like 2 3, from my opinion, like 2 3 months prior to the date when you decide to submit your thesis.
Yeah, like I'll also add in, like I've seen a lot of people doing it after their defense. Don't do it. It will
Yeah.
ruin your 1.5 2 years. I don't know like why people
Yes.
don't do it. Like you should start prior. Otherwise, like you'll spoil your years unnecessarily.
Yeah. And also, like you mentioned one important point, which was about publication, right? What do you think like the importance of publication is, like when it comes to fetching a postdoc position?
Okay.
Yeah.
So I can answer it very well because I was that candidate who was not having high impacting papers. Believe me, I was from very mediocre lab. The lab was not very active. Such, and then it was like I found it very difficult to getting position. So, and most of my publications are in the final year, like when I joined as a postdoc, they are coming after that. So
Okay.
while I was applying, the publications were less in my hand. So what I'm trying to say is, suppose if you don't have high impacting papers, then it's okay. Like it doesn't mean that you won't get the postdoc position. Believe me, I am one of the example. I've seen many others are there.
Yeah.
So of course, if you have publication and that too in high impacting journal, it's an icing on the cake, I'll say. Your sailing will be a bit smooth. But if you don't have to be bogged down. What you have to do is you have to work on your strength. Suppose by chance you get a postdoc interview, so you have to nail it. I mean, you have to present it very well. You should be thoroughly knowing your topic, what is there in your field, what can be your outcome of the. Sometimes what we do usually in interviews, like we just present and we don't know, like, does your work has some significance, like whether you can extend your work, what will be the outcome of the work, and how can you take this work to next level, and something like that. You should have some understanding. It should not be like, oh, you, for the sake of just publishing, you have done your work and then you're lost.
Exactly.
Presentation can be one thing. Your concept should be very good. Like whatever subjects you are studying, you should be thorough about it, and especially like on every slide, whatever is there, you should know the periphery of it, like where the question can come. And we can actually do that homework. We know like what we have put in on the slides and what can be probable questions next to it. So you should be very, I mean, okay, you have to balance it. And sometimes in your CV, rather than highlighting publication list, you can highlight some other stuff. Suppose some intern you have done in the past, some other extracurricular stuff. Extracurricular doesn't mean that I'll be participating in some competition in that. But something, some leadership qualities you can show, like something, because for the postdoc, the prof will certainly see, like, do you have some leadership qualities in you, whether you can, train the PhDs, postdocs, some trainees. I think you should have, or you can show something if you have a lot of seminars which you could have conducted or something like that. So try to balance out your CV and try to, like, keep it in the downside. Okay, publication are not there. And sometimes, in interview, people ask, like I was asked in my interview that why, because till that time I was having a lot of second author papers, third author papers, first author papers and lacking in your PhD. So then I honestly replied, initially the lab was new. And the system runs is that, like, even if I've contributed significantly, sometimes on the basis of seniority or something like that, things were working, and that's how the publication authors were decided. But I know what I have contributed. I know the research about it, so it's very normal thing. You can defend some of the questions spontaneously, so it's okay if you don't have publications. Still, you can manage to fetch some good postdoc position. So it can play a role, but it doesn't mean that all, like, whole of the things will be decided by your publication list. Sometimes a lot of people having good publication stuff with high impacting cannot get a good postdoc position because probably they were not thorough with the topic. Probably it's just because they have published because the lab was active or the PI was active, and it's the spoon feeding kind of concept we're running in the lab. And sometimes you cannot present well. So it's fairly decent that you can work on other things.
I mean, I think you mentioned all the points. It's a factor of a lot of things. Especially what I feel important is, like, some of the first step is to get your application, like prepare your application in a way that they select you for interview. Sometimes you can make your CV in a way that you can put in a lot of stuff. If you don't have application, for example, you mentioned about leadership qualities or like some workshops, some important stuff that you can contribute to their lab. And when you don't have publication, and also, like, I would also want to add one point. If you want good publication, usually you will have all those publications at the end of your PhD, because it takes time to have good publications, right? This is something which happened with me. I got, like, all my paper towards the end of my PhD. So what I used to do was, in my CV, I used to write, okay, these papers are under preparation, which will be submitted to these journals. So these kind of things people can
Deepak,
do.
that's true. I did that same. Like I either under submission or under preparation, I write that. People usually discourage it that you cannot write it since they are not published, but you can do it.
You can.
So I was adding one point, like, okay, CV is one part, but sometimes, professor asks you to submit more documents, say cover letter, motivation, your research statement. You can really work onto that. Like
Exactly.
these documents can be very important to you in selection. So in cover letters, try to highlight your skills, what you have done, rather than, just putting your publication you have published here and there. It's better to highlight what you have learned and how can you contribute in his or her
project.
Project. So it would be very beneficial if you really like be honest and know like what you can write, what can you contribute, rather than just playing with your publication records.
Yeah, that's right. Good points. Yeah. So coming back to your points about emails, like my next question was basically what are the ways you can approach to get a postdoc position? You already mentioned a few points like emailing and like Twitter, LinkedIn. Are there any other ways like you can go about? For example, I can tell you some points when I was looking for these positions. There are certain websites, for example, in the UK, there is this called jobs.ac.uk, and they're like academic positions. And I will put all these links in the description section.
Yeah, Urexes is there. There are a lot of positions, so you can definitely find, or sometimes it's fully funded positions, so you need not to have your individual funding, and so they are pretty good websites, so you can also like put it in the link, so it will be beneficial to people. So there are some dedicated sites for that where you can search jobs. Personal emailing is one thing, and Twitter, LinkedIn, all these stuffs can work for you.
Sometimes these email things, like you already mentioned, like
they work least.
They work the least because people will advertise the positions when they have it. They want to hire people as soon as possible because they want to work on that project. So writing a cold email works sometimes doesn't work.
It's very seldom. I'll say it will be very seldom that you will get some promising. Usually professors reply with no funding available, no position available. Most of the time, if you're getting a response, it will be like that.
It will be like that, yes.
You won't be getting any response. So
yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's move on to the next important point, which is what do you think people should look for in a lab when they want to join a postdoc position, right? Because this is a very important part. Should people also look for the work ethics of the professor, or like how he deals with his students, because that's a very important part.
True. So Deepak, like before coming to this point, I would like to address one more thing. Like sometimes I have seen people, like, since we are very eager to fetch any positions in, even if it's not matching with our interest, or sometimes it is diverting very like much. So sometimes I say like you should wait. Rather than randomly going here and there, it's better to figure out, because sometimes you have done into one domain and some reasonably decent lab is giving you an opportunity, but you don't want to pursue that.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it won't be useful to you. Like, you took some medicinal chemistry lab because you are organic synthetic, but your main interests are in, some environmental applications. So I won't feel it very useful. I think it should wait and, applies to your interesting areas. And coming to your point, of course, it's like what we say, it's not just professor is hiring you, it's the other way also. You are also choosing your PI. So for postdoc, it's very mandatory that you'll check a lot of stuff before joining it. And at the end of the interview, usually professors give you a chance, like, do you have any questions? Please don't say no, you don't have any questions. It sounds very dumb. You can ask some simple questions also, like how much hours he's expecting to work in a day, I'm saying the pretty simple questions you can ask.
How the normal day looks like. So these kind of things.
What are the expectations from new hire, like from new postdoc he's hiring? Like the expectation should not be like 3-4 jacks, in 6 months. So like if he's like that, insane, so it can be an alarming sign. So I'll say that you can discuss a bit more about your areas, your flexibility, how much you will be productive, the hours, and then of course you can contact the lab members also, like how the lab environment is there, how they are feeling there. And then, of course, you can see how much corresponding author papers the PI is publishing. Usually, sometimes the lab is not publishing. It's just the collaboration of the professors who's publishing, and you will see the H index is very high, or you'll see that the professor is publishing 30-40 papers in it. But it's just collaborative. It's just the PI is contributing somehow or the other. It's not the lab who is. So it should be very active lab. It should, align with your interest. The lab environment should be good. It should not be very choking. Okay. And then you can, if you are applying abroad, you can see the diversity. Sometimes you can see, it should not be like only some particular kind of people are there. If it is diverse, so you can, I think it would be better you will fit in, and it can show that the prof is somewhat balanced in hiring. But it's just one point. It's all periphery things you can consider. It's not the main thing. Main thing is interest, the ideology of the professor, how he treats you. And then some professor treats you as a slave. Okay, so if that's the thing.
That's very common.
Yeah, so you are not safe, of course, you're contributing. And even suppose if you are going with your individual fellowship, so and you're treating treating fellows with individual fellowship the same way, it's an alarming sign, you see, because you can produce something concrete if you have that liberty of the free mind. So try to get some information on this. Like, it would be helpful. Do some background checking.
Yeah. And also, like, it's also important to check, like, whatever work you're going for, you should also check if the machines are available there or not.
True.
Because sometimes, even if it's a collaborative work, you have to travel somewhere, take time from someone's lab, and like if it's free or not, so it will basically delay your work. So this is very important.
Because postdoc will be like, the time constraint would be there, and if you struggle about facilities, the work won't be that prominent. So facility is one of the important key also. Yeah, true.
Yeah. And also, like you mentioned one point, like people should wait if they don't find anything related to their work or where they want to go. And basically, they can also go for some scholarship, talk to some professors in their field, and write for fellowship, because that's important. This is a very good point, because what I feel down the line is, like, if you are not trained on the things which you want to do, it will be very difficult for you to get into that jobs later on in your life, because usually people don't give you chances. And also, even if you want to write for funding later on, usually in the funding application, you also mention that this is the work which we have already done. We want to carry it forward. So it's also important for your funding prospects in the future.
It will be systematic for you. It will certainly help you to start your career in some specific direction rather than beating around the bush. So it will help you, I think.
And you can also build your name in the particular field, so people will know you.
True.
And that's also very important.
Yeah.
Okay. So another important question that was important for me when I was looking for a postdoc, which I was told by my supervisors, that you should not do your postdoc from the same lab where you did your PhD. So do you think it's a good point? People should not do it in the same lab, or like they can go do it? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think the normal practice is you should not continue, because since you have done the PhD, I think you can, have a different say about it. But it depends. Suppose if your lab, I haven't seen many people doing it as a post. Like, what I'll think about it is, like, since you have spent probably say 5 years, 4 years, 6 years in your PhD at certain place, certain environment, it's better to step out of your comfort zone, because that will be your comfort zone. Everything, most of the things about it, like how the things work there, how the university works and everything. So it's always better to explore something else, like take a step forward, try to explore some other lab. You'll certainly learn something else. Definitely it will add to your personality, some other perspective, not really to research, but some other thing which help you to develop some personality. So I genuinely feel that you should step out. yes, if somebody says, oh, he's working under Nobel laureate and he has done the PhD into it, he can continue with the postdoc. I'll say if that that prominent thing. Otherwise, I'll say step out and try to figure out something else.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also important for your network, because you will have like collaboration, or like you will make good friends at in the different labs. So that will also help you increase your network. And also, like, when later on in your life, when you'll apply for some other position, like say, like, because postdoc is not permanent, so when you'll apply for a permanent position, I think it shows your ability to convince people about your work if you are stepping out of your lab. So that's also another factor for you, I guess.
True. Yeah.
Okay. So my next question to you is, should we look for a postdoc in industry or academics, or like, do you have any certain preference? Like, okay, we should do our postdoc in industry so that we can get to see what's there in the real life, or do you prefer academics? Like, okay, we can do some individual things, we can plan, we have more freedom, so we can plan anything. What do you think is good?
Yeah, Deepak, it's also a good question, because both set of postdocs are available, industry also and the academia also. I think it's a personal choice. Suppose if you want to make career in academia, it's better to get into an academic institute, because then you'll be getting a training, some sort of what is needed as like regarding to that career. Suppose if you want to build career in industry, it's better to do postdoc in industry, because you will be having a taste of how industry setup works. Because like if you have options, so I think, and you're clear about it, so you see you want to make career industries, and so it's better to choose industry postdoc, because it will give you better insight. So this is one criteria you can select it. And suppose if you don't have option, usually people don't have options, so we hardly fetch 1-2 options with us. So for that, I'll say, suppose if you want to make career in academia, but you're getting a postdoc, say this industry, and there are a lot of programs going on, ISTC, like, which is Indo-German stuff, which provides the industry postdoc. There are a lot of things which through government of India, a lot of initiative have been there. So, and if you're getting it, they are prestigious also, you can try it. Like, you can certainly do it. And then since you have enhanced your skills, and then still you're not very satisfied with the industry setup, then of course it will take some more years. Try to move into some academic setup and start your career there. So I think that way one should proceed.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, so this is, I think, the most important part, because now I want to look at the student who is going to apply for a postdoc from the professor's perspective.
Okay, Deepak. So like, I'll honestly say, whenever I used to apply, I used to think this question. Like, suppose if I'll be the professor, how will I scan, So it's like, before interviewing, there is the preliminary stage, like you have a lot of junk of applications on your table, you have to figure out. So I'll see, like, suppose if the position demands some hardcore synthetic work, okay? So, and somebody from methodology is applying, or some XYZ domain, I'll keep it, separate. I'll focus on the core, the people having the core skills which the project demands. So your probability of getting selected in that stage would increase if you apply to a position where exactly your skills are useful. I'm not saying the topic is exactly same like what you have done in your PhD, but your skills are very useful to that project. So one can be this thing, like, and then what I'll see is, as a professor, I'm telling this to you. So what I can see is, like, of course, the publication record, it cannot be ignored since it's the research position. And even if it's not there, I'll try to figure out what skills the person has highlighted, say in cover letter or in motivation letter, or say in research statement or in CV itself. So what are the skills actually he has mentioned? And then I'll also see if how active he is in other stuff. It can be the least one, like, of course, the preferences are there. So after scanning all those, these will these will increase your chances of getting a postdoc interview. So these are all initial stages. So you should plan your application very well, and it should be error free. I'll again quote, it should not have some random XYZ professor's name, lot of typo errors. It should be very properly framed, properly aligned. It should look pleasing to me. Sometimes we won't do alignment properly. So it should be 1.5 page, not too long. Nobody will going to read it. Like professors don't have that time. It should be very short.
and clean.
Should not miss out things also. It should not be like 2-3 lines also. So it should be very systematically planned. And after this has been done, then for an interview, what you can do is what I used to do it. I took one blank paper and I 30-40 questions for me.
Okay.
And then it is very from the very basic. Like, suppose if somebody asks you, describe yourself, okay? They tell me something about you in 2 to 3 lines. And since this video is going on, we don't have any script, okay? So we keep on going on, and we are not seeing the time. So with an interview, I usually say that you should have some lines in your head, like how
exactly.
Like you should know, because you don't want to miss out things also, and should not be taking too much time. 10 minutes you're talking about you only. So
that's not right.
Interviews will be 40-45 minutes. So it should be very crisp, what I'll say. Again, I iterate that. You should have some homework should be done for that. Some basic questions like describe yourself, you should describe your PhD work in few lines also. Okay. It's important. So sometimes we keep on bubbling here and there. Okay. So so you should be very clear about it, what you have done it, and it should not be just the title. You can if you had said that title, you can explain 1 to 3 lines what is the importance or significance of it. And these are some basic questions. So you can prepare yourself for it. Like if somebody is asking you, how would you answer that? Then coming to some he'll give you a chance to do the presentation. Okay, so your presentation should be error free. I'll again quote. It should not have some typos. The structure should not be wrong. The references should be properly in a proper format. Sometimes the formatting issues are most common in our field. So it should be, it should not be there, because you are, trying to fetch some position. So once this presentation part, you have made a good presentation. It should be good. It should not be too boring, too lengthy. I think if he has given you a time of 15-20 minutes, I think 8, 9, 10 slides would be, bombardment of too much of slides will, just take off the interest. Nobody's, have that day long for you to see all your 30, 40, 50 presentations for you. So it's bad idea. Your presentation should be crisp. So what I'll say is you can make buffer slides. Suppose you have in some concept or some straight away thing in Q&A sections. So what you can use those slides later, but you don't have to show it in one go. It's okay. You can use it later on, and you can, and that way you can actually turn down your interview also, because since you're not revealing everything in one go, so what are the most probable questions have to become, and you're already prepared. You have slides for it. You can explain it. So I think it will work. So the presentation thing is one of the most important thing, I think, for the interview, because on that basis, the prof will decide, are you the suitable candidate? Do you have good, communication skills? Can you convince people? Do you have the concept clarity? Do you know what you have done and what you will be doing it? So these are something you should need to work on. And then of course, if somebody communication skills, I'll say that if somebody is not having good English, see, it doesn't mean that you won't get into this postdoc, because I have seen a lot of my fellows who are not good in communicating things, not good, and especially we come from India, right? So that inferiority is always there, that we cannot speak fluent English. I also cannot do that, believe me. It's just okay, I have been to some presentations and conference, and it enhances your skills, but I won't say that I was from day one I was so fluent or I have good communication skills. It keeps on building it, and still, if you're not able to do that, it's okay, but you can refine your skills in that way. At least you can put whatever you're trying to with some clarity. You should not, frame those statements which nobody will understand. So this much English one should know, but if you're not fluent, it's okay. You can take your time, deliver. It's okay, because it's not about us also. I've seen a lot of people working in NIH, they are Chinese and they don't have that good English. So it's okay. They know science, that's why they are recruited, right? So we can also get recruited. So don't take it as a setback that you don't have good English. I think you can work on it, and also like try to communicate in a way that the other person will understand. Take proper pauses, give yourself a time. You don't have to rush every time, because while you rush, you'll make a lot of mistakes. So these things you can work on.
Yeah, I think in research, you really don't need a very, very good English. You just need basic English, right?
Yeah, just to communicate what you have done.
Yeah, and also you can work on your presentations on your CV, like you can give time to it, so it will be automatically okay.
Exactly.
One question that I could pick from your
also, like, I want to add it, like, and also like don't be afraid of giving talks or getting into a poster sessions. It will just improve, like put some enhancement in your personality. So sometimes people don't do it because they already know that they are lacking it, and they don't want to improve it. So
they're afraid of taking steps.
So it's better to take it so that it will refine you.
So I have a carry forward question from what you mentioned. Like, for example, sometimes what happens is, like, although you have done your PhD in particular subject, but somehow through your PhD research, you have come to a point that, no, I'm not interested in methodology. Basically, I'm interested in processing side now. Right. But your background and your profile does not say anything good about you, that you can do good work in processing. So what do you think people should approach? Like, what do you think is the way people should approach the professors when they want to switch fields? Right? How should they approach people in this case?
So what I'll say is, because I am one of the example, like I was hardcore natural product synthetic chemist. I don't know anything about medicine. Okay, medicinal chemistry, I don't know. What I know is how to make molecules. That's it. Okay. And then I don't want to continue in hardcore synthetic work because I don't find it very useful. I'm not criticizing the field. I will say that I don't find a lot of application because in my PhD also, like, I just made the molecules, store them in the fridge, and probably somebody will throw it. Like, so making molecules won't serve the purpose. So that's why I was very eager to switch the field. And I was facing the same difficulty because I was not getting any replies. So because yes, people won't take you seriously. Suppose if you want to enter into this medicinal chemistry, or say in some environmental stuff, some other fields, catalysis or something, and you haven't done any work regarding it. So what you can do is, in your mail, you can actually convince in a certain way that you can write something that fetches the professor's interest. Suppose you have scanned his profile. So just saying that you're interested in methodology won't serve the purpose. You should read some papers. You should have some background about it. Try to understand it, since you're interested in that field. So you'll do that. So, and then to him, convince that this is the papers you have read. This is how you think. Suppose if somebody wants to move in methodology, and you have seen that some solvent-free reactions were carried out, and using particular metal catalyst. So you can try to propose, like, what do you think can be a better way to do that? So like, a lot of homework has to be done because you're not from that field. So really it will take a lot of efforts from your side, but you should do it. Otherwise nobody will take you seriously, and you won't get that opportunity. So this much is needed for you. And still, like, to convince a professor, what I'll say is, like, some of the skills you can align. Suppose, like, because I'll give my example only because I know about. So I don't know the biology much. Haven't, like, in my PhD, I'm never exposed to that biology, acid developments, anything. It's okay, but I know, like, how to make molecules, and I know the characterization of it. So I can highlight those things, but then try to show, like, how these technologies or the skills are important into that. How can tune the molecule? How can you characterize some particular thing? So what I'm trying to say is like, try to align your skills with that particular, some of the skills, all will not go. Okay.
Basic,
Yeah. So
basically try to sell yourself.
exactly. You have to do it because you are there for it. So you have to do it. So there's that. Just try to convince it. It's like what worked for me is like during my COVID, I tried to step out and like I learned computational stuff during COVID because labs were shut down. So I actually highlighted that thing, that since hardcore organic synthetic MS moved to computational stuff, so it was easier for me to switch to medicinal also. Because I have that zeal to learn. So if you have certain things that your hardcore is something else, but still you have added some other skills onto you, say during some internship, during a master's program, during a PhD program, or during some coursework. So you can highlight those things that you have learned that particular thing. So it's not very impossible thing to learn some new field also to get in. So you can show that you're very eager and very open to some new research field, and you can do that. So
I mean, you mentioned it correctly. Like we should always approach people, professors, with the project in mind, and also try to align your skills with that project, how you can solve it, and what is the objective that you want to achieve through whatever, if you want to change your field as well, and how that professor can serve the purpose. You can align everything, and then and like you, as you said, like you have to do a lot of hard work before you write an email to the professor.
That's true.
Great. So coming to the final question for you, which is, what do you think are the job prospects after postdoc? Because most of the time what people tell me is like, I mean, most of my friends, they don't understand what's a postdoc. They always say, how much will you study? But what are the job prospects you think after postdoc?
See, like it's a tricky question, because why I'm saying that, suppose if you want to get into academia and have some specific institutes to be entered, so it will be challenging, okay, because competition is very high. Suppose if you want to get into Indian academic system, so you know how it works, a lot of other dynamics would work. So I'll say that after postdoc, it's not short that whatever you want to go for, you'll get it. Of course, you'll get it if you work very hard. I won't say, I'm not discouraging you, but you should be open to other stuffs also. Suppose if you are targeting IITs, then you should be, open to NITs, or say some regional universities, central universities, some private colleges, because after all, you want to do some research, either in India or abroad. So whatever opportunity will come to you, or you should take it. And then of course you can, try to switch. So this is one thing. Targeting just some specific thing would be very difficult. So you might, it may work. You can be like,
if you work hard for it, it can work for you, but it's very difficult these days.
Sometimes you have worked hard, you have everything in you, but some influential prof says there are a lot of stuffs which goes in the background. Politics, everything goes in the background, so nothing is short. So that is why I'm saying you should be open to it. And career after postdoc, I'll say industry, of course you'll have good amount of, because there are a lot of, to me, like I know it's a lot of pharma companies are there and other stuff. So in industry, they're pretty good options, and then they'll consider you because you're not just the PhD candidate, you have some, research also. So it will add some feather to you, certainly. Industry is also good. I know some of, like, you can go into some science policy things, some journals, like they hire public science communication things we want. So there are some specific positions for it. You can apply that if you are fed up with the research thing. You don't want to be in the lab. You want to be some positions where the skills are needed, some writing or something like that. So you can try that positions also. So there are different things. Other things.
You can also go for your startup if you have something good. This is something which is booming these days, and especially I think like people should go for the startups, like if they have something very good.
Concrete, So certainly this is one of the good things you will do to yourself if you have something.
And I think people are also moving to industries these days a lot, because in academics, you don't get a lot of money, but in industry, you get a lot of money. So yeah, it's up to a person what he or she wants to do. So
wants to do with the research career. So
yeah. Okay, so this was my last question. Do you have anything to add after this? Like,
I'll say that, see, like the research career will be won't say when sign-ups will be very less sometimes. It's all down, will be very high. But if you really like the career, if you really like what you do, it's okay. Like, don't compare lives with other people. Like, as you said, your friends are still saying that how much
will you study?
So people don't understand what you're doing it because they don't see on some high platforms like, oh, some positions, assistant prof positions or something like that. So they won't understand your job perspective, but that's fine. You know what you are doing it.
Exactly.
So don't get bogged down. You'll be struggling personally, professionally, a lot of things are doing it. But it's okay. Just be happy in whatever you are doing it. Like, you know, so it's okay. Just celebrate life. That's the only thing I would say.
That's right. Okay, Anu, thank you so much for giving us your time, precious time, I will say.
Thank you. I really enjoyed the session, and it's good that you are doing a very good job because these are some of the questions we actually address at personal level. See, some juniors is asking, some seniors is asking, but you know, we don't find all these things very promptly on social media because most of the time it's all government jobs, other stuff. Flooded with thing, postdoc, and people don't know much about it. So this is one of the prominent video. I'll say, like, it would be very good, may help a lot of people there.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys, for watching the entire episode. Now, if you have any questions or if you want me to make a podcast or invite someone for any particular question, you can leave your questions in the comment sections. And also, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel so that you can get all the information. And also, please don't forget to press the bell icon.